Hello and welcome to the Point After. I'm Nate Wimberly, joined by Jorge Andres. We've been heavy on football with the Super Bowl being on WBTV last Sunday and the terrible season that was for the Carolina Panthers. But now it's time to start talking college basketball. Selection Sunday is less than a month away, March 17th. I can't wait. Still a lot of hoops to play before the brackets are officially announced.
Yeah, that's right, Nate. Both the American and the ACC have local squads circling the top of the conference, and with 2.5 weeks left, it's all going to come down to how every team finishes. As a shaky ending to a regular season could leave, of course, some teams out or in a bad spot entering the tournament.
Yeah, some huge games this week in the ACC and the American. Tomorrow, Syracuse is at NC State. Pac trying to build their resume. Got a big win over Clemson on a game-winning bucket from DJ Horn on Saturday night. Also Tuesday, Pitt is at Wake Forest. Both teams are in the running for a bid to the NCAA tournament, but both have to improve their resume. A win Tuesday will do that for one of these teams. Wednesday, Charlotte will take on Memphis. 49ers in second place in the AAC and need to keep winning if they hope to claim the regular season title. That game kind of makes me nervous. We'll get to that in a second. Saturday is a huge one for the ACC. Once again, Wake Forest with another chance to get a quad one win as they will host Duke. And North Carolina takes on Virginia. First place in the ACC could be on the line if, and this is a big if, Virginia can beat rival Virginia Tech tonight, and it seems like Virginia always has problems with the Hokies. Tonight's going to be very interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great to see that matchup. Look, you mentioned before the show started, Virginia is kind of hovering there. Virginia may be the one that plays spoiler to a lot of these conversations.
Yes. We will talk ACC in a few minutes, but let's jump back to the Charlotte 49ers. The 49ers were picked up their 11th conference win of the season yesterday by beating Wichita State 72-61. Luka Patterson had 19 points. Nick Graves and Deshaun Jackson each added 14 points. Charlotte is 11-1 in their last 12 games and currently sits second place in the AAC. The 49ers will head on the road to face Memphis on Wednesday at 8 p.m. And just like I said before, man, this game right here makes me nervous. Memphis is, they were expected to do great things this season. They lost 4 in a row, got a win. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak. This Memphis team is still good, and I know Charlotte knows they can't go there and sleep on this team. But boy, this thing is making me nervous.
It's nerve-wracking because it's starting to come to an end, you know, and this is when you really have to turn it on. Look, you mentioned it. It was another great big win by Charlotte. You mentioned it, 11-1 in the last 12 games. But look, that's not the number people should focus on. Why? Well, because as we start dwindling down the year and getting closer to that tournament time, it's all about how you've played lately and how you finish. Now, what people should focus on is their last 4 games. In those last 160 minutes, to be exact, the Niners have trailed for a total of just 29 seconds. It's the way they're finishing games that are getting them to the next level. It's intelligent play. It's eating fouls to disrupt a 2-man pick and roll, to give a team a shot, and then, again, play the percentages. It's all about playing the percentages. That's what they did against Wichita State. They slowed down to avoid a comeback. They took control. When you start dictating the speed of the game, you start controlling the potential momentum swings. That's when this team has done, not just the shockers, but also if you take a look at that game against Temple, and even in that loss, Nate, even in that loss to South Florida, that's the reason Charlotte is cooking with 5 games left, including that rematch against the Bulls. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it will be. To talk more about the Niners' success, we bring on Cam Williams from the Charlotte Post-Camp. Thanks for joining us, man. This team was picked to finish 13th in a 14-team league after Ron Sanchez left in June. They also lost a couple of top scorers in Bryce Williams and Ali Khalifa. What has gone right for this team to be in this position, and what kind of calming effect did Aaron Fern have on this program?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just said it. It's a calming effect that Coach Fern has brought to this program, and he's really just got the guys bought into what he's trying to accomplish at Charlotte, and ultimately that's to win an AAC title. And I think he's got the guys playing hard. He's got them playing physical, something that 49er fans hadn't seen in quite some time.
Cam, I'll hit you with this one. Look, one of the most impressive pieces thus far has been the play from Jackson. How has his game elevated the people around him, like Patterson, like Nick Graves?
Yeah, I mean, he's come in and replaced Ali Khalifa, and that was a big hole that needed to be filled. And when he transferred from Washington State, that was a big hole that needed to be filled. And I mean, he's picked right up where Ali left off. Maybe not the distributor that Ali was,
Sure.
but points production hadn't dropped off any in that center position.
Guard play is key when it comes March, and they've got a couple of good ones in Nick Graves and Lukai Patterson. When Sanchez left, a lot of guys could have transferred. They had the window to transfer. All of them came back. Most of them came back, and Lukai was probably the biggest one. Just talk about what Lukai Patterson is to this team this season.
I said it from the beginning. This team is going to come and go as Lukai comes and goes. You know, Igor Milicic gets a lot of the attention, but I think it comes down to what Lukai does for this team. He's, you know, a distributor, but he can also score. He has one of the prettiest mid-range jumpers in all the American Conference, and so if he continues to play that high level, I like Charlotte's chances.
Look, Nate mentioned it. It's almost like that locker room feeling, that sense that you get where guys buy into, especially a new coach, especially a new season where people expected them to be out. You follow this team closely. Take us into that locker room, and what's the vibe in that locker room with these young kids that right now they have nothing to lose because nobody expected them to even be here?
Yeah, I mean, when I've talked with Lukai Patterson earlier in the year, I did a story on him and just how he talks about how the team as a whole has come together, especially over this season. It took him a little bit. You know, the non-conference play was a little shaky, but just the on-court camaraderie with the guys now seems to really be, gelled together. And moving forward, I just think if Lukai can continue to be that leader for the team, I think it'll go a long way.
I've been here long enough. I've been here for 26 years. I remember the days when Halton Arena was just packed. In the first iteration of the Conference USA, when Cincinnati would come to town with Bob Huggins, the Niner Nation called him Bob Thuggins because he had Kenyon Martin and Nick Van Eck. So I remember the days when Louisville would come in with Coach, and then Marquette with Dwayne Wade. Halton Arena was just packed all the time. We finally got that again with the ECU game, and I got a sneaky feeling if Charlotte takes care of their business in 2 weeks when South Florida comes to town, it's going to be packed again. Talk about the atmosphere in that building. You were in there for the ECU game. Just talk about that and how good it feels to have the building like that again.
I mean, it's not something I ever got to experience there as a student. So it was really cool just seeing Halton packed out and to be able to hear the chants of 49ers go from side to side across the arena. Something that your alumni talk about all the time. In the late 90s, early 2000s, this is how it was. And for it to get back that way, I think is really just crucial for the team because they feed off that energy. And Coach Fern talks about just how the momentum the crowd gives them is really important.
The energy is key. You mentioned it, and I hate to ask you this question because it's an impossible one to answer, but given that South Florida game coming up here in a couple of weeks, and given how they've played lately, including how they started the season a little shaky with those non-conference games, what's this team's ceiling heading into possibly a berth in the tournament?
I think the ceiling is getting to the NCAA tournament. I don't think this is a team that isn't capable of doing that. They led all but the last couple minutes of that USF game in South Florida. So I think if they just eliminate the mental mistakes, I think they can get it done in South Florida. But they got to take care of Memphis first, and Nate's worried about it. So am I, because Memphis poses a big threat, especially athletically. Yeah,
we was just taking a look at the schedule right there. That South Florida game is a big game, but that Memphis game, and I'm not even going to sleep on Tulsa. It's kind of a trap game because it's the meat in the middle of that sandwich between Memphis and South Florida. A lot of times you get to that middle game, and it's a team that you should beat, and that's the one you trip up on. So those are two games that I'm sure Coach Fern is kind of just drilling those guys' heads. Hey, guys, let's not look ahead to South Florida. We need to pay attention to Memphis and Tulsa. Looking at the standings right now, they have to win the conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Preferably, you would like to be in that one spot so you don't have to mess with Florida Atlantic and SMU. Or actually, it's Florida Atlantic and South Florida. You want to be in the first spot. SMU's a tough team too. South Florida gets a double bye into the conference tournament. But God, man, it's like pick your poison. Yeah. I don't think they would love to win that regular season title and have that one spot. But even if you won and you win that first game, and then you have to take on SMU in that second game, it's still going to be a tough road to make it to the conference championship and win the championship. Yeah. I mean, anyone can win. It's been proven if you look across just the schedule. The season's progressed. I mean, Wichita State's played a lot of close
games with teams that should have, beat them by double digits. And I mean, teams at the bottom of the league are competing with teams at the top of the league. Temple played Charlotte close on the road.
Yep.
So, I mean, it just goes to show the parity of this league and just how, I mean, you got to play your best game every single game.
The margin for error is so small. Look, we all have really alluded to it. They really got to play well to be able to find themselves in a position to punch your ticket to the tournament. And then, of course, anything can happen in the tournament. We've seen other teams do that. Now, that margin of error being so small, what are other teams looking at with Charlotte as, okay, that's the weakness, that's the Achilles heel that I need to expose so that this Charlotte team is nowhere near the conversation when we're talking about the Memphises, when we're talking about the South Floridas, the SMUs that are circling Charlotte right there in their schedule?
Sometimes rebounding can be a little bit of an issue. You just look at the South Florida game. South Florida mounts, good comeback, but the point of emphasis was really rebounding, and Charlotte didn't do that well in the latter part of that game. But I think overall, just rebounding is huge. But if Charlotte goes cold, they can have some scoring droughts that could really plague them, and that can be worrisome. But overall, I think they're playing their best basketball at the right time of year. But just the little things, and that's what Fern's trying to clean up on.
I think, and this is my last point on Charlotte, Coach Fern has the eyes and ears of that locker room right now. He's got them playing unselfish ball. They cut well, they pass well, they defend. They're just playing great ball. And as long as, just like I said, if Nick Graves and Lukai Patterson plays well, this team is going to go pretty far, I do believe.
Yeah, I think so. I think both guards, they don't really consider themselves point guards. They don't really consider themselves shooting guards. So either one of them can be the distributor on any given night. A lot of people don't believe in that philosophy, but I think as long as one of them's, on point, making sure the guys are doing the right thing, I think they can go win the AAC tournament and, maybe even get an upset in the NCAA tournament.
Play smart and keep playing together. They've been doing them thus far. If they continue that, hey, they could be dancing.
And actually, I'm going to make one more point. I think also they're playing their role, which Coach talked about after the game yesterday. Isaiah Folks in the starting lineup now. Jackson Threadgill on the bench. They're 11-1 with Isaiah Folks in the starting lineup. But Jackson Threadgill makes big shots coming off the bench. So that's his role now.
Yeah.
He's a sixth man. He's playing it well. No one cares who gets the credit on this team.
Which is great. That's how winning teams get in.
Exactly, and that's what they're playing. This team is a joy to watch. If you're a Charlotte 49ers fan and you haven't made it out the hall, you want to go out and see this team. It is a fun team to watch. There's not really a star of the team. They all play well. They play well together, and the future is now. But the future is bright as long as and a lot of these guys will be back next year. So.
Yeah.
Niner Nation, man, now's the time to jump on board. This team is fun to watch. Hey, Cam, appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
The Point out there. Let's turn our focus to the ACC, where it is getting tight at the top of the standings. Let's bring on one of the hardest working women on the sports beat in the Carolinas. Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. These are the ACC standings right now. A few days ago or a few weeks ago, North Carolina had a stranglehold on this thing.
Oh, they let everybody in, Nate. They let everybody in.
They were 9-0. And they
Terrible.
lost to Georgia Tech. They beat Duke.
Oh, man. I'm going to tell you what. They had, like you mentioned, they had a stranglehold. But once you start sliding and you start playing this up and down, up and down, up and down roller coaster, now you got Duke sliding in there. You saw what Clemson did. NC State's even in the conversation. So now, look, we talk about Charlotte finishing strong and believe. We're looking at a team that has way more talent that is not doing that.
Yeah. Now, let's bring on one of the hardest working women on the sports beat in the Carolinas. She covers the Carolina Panthers extensively, and I'm going to get a question on the Panthers after we're done with the ACC in a second. And she's very thorough on the hoops in the ACC. Vashti Hurt of the Carolina Blitz. Man, what's good, Vashti? How you doing?
I'm good, Nate. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about being on this new show.
Hey, thanks for having us. Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry about that. And we are going to start with UNC. They started 9-0 in the ACC, lost to Georgia Tech, and then beat Duke. And after that Duke win, Armando Bacot stated that the ACC runs through him. Well, Clemson and Syracuse took their turns at that turnstile. They went through him and the team, got wins. Now, UNC did beat Virginia Tech on Saturday, but what is going on with this USC team? Why are they so up and down after starting 9-0 and just looking like a Final Four team?
You know, for the last few years, it's kind of been a trend for the Tar Heels. They'll start up very strong in ACC play, and then heading into the Duke game, and then they'll kind of go on a slump, and then they'll finish the season strong again. We'll see. I mean, you can't make a statement like the ACC runs through me and then lose to Clemson a couple of days later.
Preach.
You know, and there's a guy named PJ Hall who was a big man in the ACC who was probably doing the Birdman hand rub when he said that, because he had his own thing to prove when he went into Chapel Hill, and he scored 25 points in that game. So Armando has really had an up and down season. You know, you scored 25 and 10 against your rival. Of course, you're gonna pop off a little bit, but he hasn't scored in. He hasn't scored in double digits. I think prior to that game, I think he went 3 straight games and he didn't score in double figures. So he's kind of had an up and down game. I think having that big game against Duke really put a battery in his back. And I think that if you were to ask him today, he probably regrets saying that, because that really put a target, even more of a target on the Tar Heels. And you know, you see the loss to Clemson, the loss at Syracuse, and they bounced back against Virginia Tech. But as you mentioned, this is not an easy stretch coming out to the end of the ACC season.
Vashti, Jorge Andres here in studio. And look, a lot, like you mentioned it, Nate mentioned it, we've all mentioned it, a lot of attention has been on this Tar Heels team. The exact up and down roller coaster, we've seen it, we've talked about it. Meanwhile, Duke, look, they get beat by Carolina, and then they've been steady since. They've racked up 4 straight wins in 7 of their last 8. Their next 3 opponents all have at least 2 to 3 game losing streaks before they close with some good teams. How important has the emergence of Jared McCain been to how this team is finishing not just games, but what looks to be the regular season?
Yeah, that game against Florida State, you know, when you scored 35 points, you tie a freshman scoring record with Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
And by the time the game was over, every time he touched the ball, the crowd at Florida State booed him. That is incredible to have that type of game. And you know, don't expect him to shoot 7 from 8 from 3 in the first half in any other game this season, but it does make opponents respect his shot more. And that opens up things for the entire Duke offense, opens up for guys in the post. And then, of course, with Tyrese Proctor, he was out with a concussion. They needed those extra points for McCain. But, you know, I don't expect him to score 35 again. If he does, I will be flabbergasted. But he has been a very strong freshman. I think it will be between him and Cadeau as far as freshman of the year for ACC. Maybe that 35-point performance put him over the top. But, you know, their opponents now, and they play Miami, Wake, Louisville, UVA, NC State, and then UNC again. They now have to respect Jared when he steps behind that 3-point line.
After the season that Virginia had last year, are we sleeping on Virginia? It
Yes,
just
that's a
took
great
one
question.
season of bad ball, and it was like, oh, well, that's Virginia again.
Yeah.
Are we sleeping on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming into the season, nobody expects you. I mean, I think they finished 4th in the ACC preseason poll, but Tony Bennett has a program and he has a system, and it works for them, right? They're the top-ranked defense in the ACC, which is not, you know, that's not anything new. They're second in 3-point field percentage. They're top in turnover margin, assisted turnover ratio. UVA tends to show up, and they show up in February and they show up in March. And, you know, they're 2 and 3 against quad 1 teams. I think everybody slept on UVA because they just, you know, they had quite a few transfers, although they have, you know, had guys who stayed, but you went with the transfer portal and all of the changes that occur season to season with in college basketball now. I think that people weren't expecting them to do much, but now here they are, you know, right now, I think 3rd in the ACC, and will be playing for a spot and could finish the season as regular season champs. So impressive season for the Cavaliers and Bennett.
Now, NC State and Clemson, they're 2 teams that are trying to get in that conversation. They're trying to continue to win well, to be able to at least be in that top four, to have an opportunity to go dancing. Now, when you look at both Clemson and NC State, they've been hot and turned a lot of heads, like the Carolina win that we talked about earlier, but then they've immediately let people down and gone cold. What is it about each one of these two squads that makes them so streaky?
Yeah, I think that consistency at shooting, I think, and it's natural, even with these young guys in college, you win a big game and you kind of ride that high. That's what happened with Carolina after they beat Duke. You get a big win, you ride the high, you maybe don't prepare as much for that next opponent. And I think that's, what happened. Clemson lost to NC State on that last second shot. NC State has had their own downfalls where they would be leading and then they end up falling off in the second half. And then Wake is another team who is in the mix, kind of vying for an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament. Right now, I think Clemson is that team that has that. They're ranked 27th. I'm sure they'll fall after that loss to NC State, but they're 4-3 against quad one opponents. Wake is 1-6 and NC State is 1-6. So right now, if we're looking at between those three teams, Clemson has the spot to make that at-large appearance in the NCAA tournament. But these guys are just having a problem focusing after big wins. And that, honestly, that's on the coach. The coach has to get the guys right.
Yeah, the selection committee put out their first preview bracket, and Clemson was the team that was in, and Wake and NC State were the ones that were out. They got to do some serious winning, and Wake really had a chance to get one Saturday against Virginia and just kind of let that one get away at the end. So it's going to be very interesting to see if one of those three. Well, we know I feel like Clemson's going to get in, even though they lost Saturday to NC State. If they just get a couple more wins, I think they're going to get in. But Wake and NC State have a lot of work to do. Now, Vashta, I cannot let you go without asking at least one Carolina Panthers question because, folks, she is the queen when it comes to coverage of the Carolina Panthers. She's at every practice. She's at every game. There's not a day that she's not around that team. Tag day starts tomorrow for the NFL teams. Will Brian Burns get tagged by the Carolina Panthers before the March date ends?
If they're smart, they tag Brian Burns.
What do you say? What?
If they're smart, they tag Brian Burns. That you don't lose. And there are questions about, will they do a sign and trade? Will they just let him go outright? You can't and you can debate about this all you want to. Brian Burns is still a top tier edge rusher in the NFL, and you cannot just allow him to walk away from your team. Canales had a big win in being able to retain all of the defensive staff. That Brian Burns is the cornerstone of that defense along with Derek Brown. You got to tag him since you trying to drop the ball. I think Scott Fritter dropped the ball and not signing him to a deal when they exercised his rookie option. But, since you didn't do that, since you didn't sign him when the price was low and now the price is higher, you got to tag him. You just don't want to lose a guy like that.
Absolutely.
I agree.
The tag will be applied at some point. Franchise or transition, either one, he's going to get a tag, I do believe. Vashta, thank you for joining us. We will definitely talk to you more as we get closer to March Madness and enjoy Tobacco Road these last few weeks because it's going to get hot on the road to the ACC tournament. Vashta, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, from college hardwood to the association, after defense was pretty much optional in the All-Star game this weekend, the focus then shifts back to the regular season. Look, hey, I'm looking at like almost 400 points. I was like, what is this?
200 points, 211 points from one team in the All-Star game.
I couldn't, man. I was like, what is this?
What are you doing? Like, what? Throw the thing away. Just throw it away. Throw it away. They're not going to throw it away because it makes money, but
that's
who
it.
cares?
That's it. Well, yes. At least everybody's focus now is back on the regular season. And although the Hornets are hanging near that cellar of the East, hey, they are a 3-game win streak. All right, let's enjoy it now, and let's be serious because it doesn't mean that they're going to do much with that 13-41 record. But a man can dream. We can all hope even that maybe Mitch Kupchak moves some final pieces to keep building for the future before taking that advisory role. What we do know is that They have something in Brandon Miller.
Mm-hmm.
They can build around him and LaMelo Ball. If Mark Williams stays healthy, you even have a legitimate rim defender, so that's not bad. Now, the Hornets, they do visit the Utah Jazz Thursday. Utah's a 30-loss team. Maybe it'll be a 4-game win streak. And then, of course, they face the Warriors, and we're back to rebuilding. So it's going to be a while till they're competitive, but at least, Nate, there's some pieces in place, maybe some hope.
Look, right now it's about stacking good building blocks.
There it
They
is.
got good building blocks with the trade for the 5 guys, and they come in, they get the 3-game winning streak. LaMelo Ball is going to come back probably this Thursday. It's going to be very interesting to see how this team plays when LaMelo Ball is reinserted in the lineup. They're playing absolutely fantastic right now.
Right, chemistry's different, though.
The chemistry is
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
What would the chemistry be when LaMelo Ball gets back?
Exactly.
This is what we need to pay attention. Don't really pay attention to the wins and the losses at this point in time. It really
No,
doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
How is this team playing when the star player comes back? And this is going to be a telling thing as far. I've been on record because I've gone on Kyle Bailey's show on WFMZ saying they probably should trade LaMelo Ball. Not this year, not right now, because I think Brandon Miller is the future of this team.
Correct.
And I don't think it's LaMelo Ball. And I'll continue to say that. I might change that if he comes in and he meshes with this nucleus and this crew of young players that they just got. They're not even young players, they're veterans that they got. Because that's the difference now, is they got some veterans in that locker room now that can affect winning. The veterans that they had and traded away wasn't affecting winning.
No.
Automatically, these 5 come in, and they're affecting winning. So what is the chemistry going to be with these guys that, have been in the league, have done it at a high level? They've been in conference finals. They've been in NBA finals. These are guys that know how to play in this league, and it is shown up in this 3-game winning streak. What is the chemistry like when LaMelo Ball comes back? We're going to see Thursday. We'll see Friday, and we'll see the rest of the year. If he comes in and they lose on Thursday and they look terrible, that's just a 1-game sample. Let them finish out the season. Let them see how they play together. Let's see how they play together next year, because they're not getting rid of LaMelo Ball anytime
Of course.
soon. But we know what they can do without Ball.
Right.
Now we need to, and if it doesn't improve with Ball in the lineup, then some stuff needs to be talked about and thought about.
These are grown men with grown men bank accounts. And at the end of the day, you put the ego aside. If you really buy into the concept that the team has, you're exactly right, because we're going to see if that ego gets checked at the door. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too, because he's a grown man with a grown man bank account. But now at the same time, then management, executives, front office, then they need to start moving the pieces to see what it is, because at least the guys that are playing right now, the guys that are winning right now, they've bought in.
Yes.
So only time will tell. Don't expect any crazy winning, but at least we have some building blocks. Like you mentioned.
It's the same thing as I said with the Panthers. After they got their win 1-10, don't worry about the wins and losses. How is the team playing?
Right.
You got to look towards the future. Right now, both of these franchises are look towards the future. Yeah, they won. They got 13 wins now. Oh, they're on a 3-game winning streak. Maybe they might get to the play-in. Don't worry about all that.
No.
Look at how they're playing to finish off this season. That's what you need to see, because that's going to dictate what they do in free agency.
100%.
Because this roster is going to change. It's still going to change in this offseason. These new owners, Plotkin and Schnall, they're not playing around. They're trying to get a winner here. This thing is going to change. If you aren't a part of the winning culture or a part of this team winning, they're gonna move you. So pay attention.
They've proved it already. They've proved it already.
Pay attention to how this team is playing down the stretch. Don't get caught up in the minutia of wins and losses. How are they playing? And we already see Coach Clifford. His demeanor has changed.
Because finally has people that buy in. He's been dying for that.
Yeah, that buys in and plays the type of ball that he likes them to play.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you lose a bunch of games, and then guys just figure, hey, this is just how it is.
Right.
We're gonna go out here and we know what the script is, and you don't get the effort that you need. These guys, they don't care about that. They're playing with effort every time. It isn't, Brandon Miller makes a layup and then he's the first one to get back down on the other end. No, they're getting down on the other end to defend, because that's what pros do. These guys are pros, and it's showing up and they're playing well. Let's see if they can continue it on Thursday.
Let's see, a little bit of hope. All right, still to come with college hoops ramping up. Where should you be leaning at the sports books? I've got your best bets on the other side of the break.
We always knew that people would die.
The violence was in the air, even though they said they were going to arrest people. You could smell it, you could feel it.
She said, I can't stand by and see this thing going on and not do something.
This is a national issue. It's not a Selma issue.
They were sacrificing their time. They were sacrificing, suspending their lives, and they paid with it.
The late Steve Crump's final documentary, Sacrifice Across the Color Line, Thursday at 7 p.m.
It's a beautiful day out, Dad. Let's go.
There's another sunny day in the forecast.
Dad, do you want to go for a walk?
High temperature right around. Saturday is the first alert weather day. Several rounds of showers and thunderstorms coming up from the south.
Welcome back to The Point After. Jorge and Nate here with you. No racing this weekend. Too much rain down in Daytona, Nate. They had to postpone the race, but we did chat last Friday with Shane Connick, and he spoke with us about what he expects this not only in the Daytona 500, but in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series that heads to Atlanta afterwards. Hey, look, he's plugged in. He knows what he's talking about, and he had some good insight, Nate.
Yeah, no racing yesterday. They're going to race today. 500s at 4 o'clock, and then the Xfinity race is tonight at 9. They were supposed to race it this morning at 11, but the rain at noon. I'm sorry, but the rain early this morning kind of pushed that timeline back. They want to start the 500 at 4 o'clock. That's why they had to shift the Xfinity race to 9 o'clock tonight, because they need to dry it. They need to get the cars pushed out and ready to go. So 4 o'clock 500. At 9 o'clock, Xfinity race. Happy President's Day, racing fans, because you get a solid day of racing. That's a lot of racing.
Hey,
a lot of going fast.
They've been getting ready since Friday, so now the party just extended.
Oh my God! Some folks gonna be calling out of work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a lot. And speaking of locks, time now for your locks of the day. Your sure things, your best bets. Look, we went 2-2 Friday with the big upset coming in South Carolina's loss to LSU. It seemed as if that Auburn hangover was still in effect. Let's look to forget that and focus on some more college hoops.
South Carolina does.
Yeah, for sure. In the ACC, Tuesday, NC State, fresh off their win over Clemson, they take on Syracuse. Look for this one to be a little too close for comfort, in my opinion. The Wolfpack 11-3 at home and tend to beat their opponents by nearly 5 points in those wins, while putting up an average 75 points. However, the Orange, that defense has kept their win margin at about a point or two on their way to a 7-8 ACC record. I would take the Wolfpack to win this one on the money line, but stay away from the points unless it's under 4 points. Then later, Wednesday, Duke, they take on Miami. The 9th-ranked Blue Devils have been hot as of late, winners of their last 4 and 7 of the last 8. Meanwhile, Miami has been trending in the opposite direction, losing 4 straight games. However, as a late ACC game, this is the makings of a physical game. Don't forget, Miami has that team, hasn't hit that team total in under 13 games, the last 22 games at home, while Duke has done the same in 9 of the last 13. Listen, I expect Duke to win this one, but if the points are generous, as that spread is generous, like a 6.5 point spread or higher even, I might just take Miami to cover. Now, finally, we've been talking about it all day. Charlotte, they take on Memphis, tip-off Wednesday at 8. I expect this to be an offensive game. Memphis has hit the game total over in 19 of their last 35 games, while the Niners have done the same in 9 of their last 16 away games. Take the Niners money line. That's my heart saying that. But absolutely take the total game over. Points are going to be coming in that one, Nate.
I wouldn't touch that game with a 10-foot.
Hey, because your heart's too invested in it.
You're right about that.
Because your heart's too invested in it.
Memphis scared that game, scares the bejesus out of me. And oh my goodness, that's oof. It's going to be a good game. I do believe. You know, I watched them play SMU yesterday. Memphis. SMU's a good team, man, but in Memphis, oh my God.
Yeah.
Look, Penny Hardaway's going to have
those. There's going to be a lot of points. There's going to be a lot of points. That I guarantee you.
Yeah,
Take the over.
They gave up a lot of points yesterday at the SMU, but I don't know about that though, because sometimes, and Cam said it when he was here, Charlotte can go cold shooting.
Yeah,
but they play good defense though. They held Wichita State to 39% shooting in the first half. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of points scored. And I think if a lot of points are scored, that's not good for Charlotte. I think Charlotte wants to play at their pace. They want to, lock them down, defend them. Charlotte wants to live in that 60 to 70 range. Yesterday, SMU, I think, scored like 90-something.
Right.
And Memphis wants to get that ball up and down. They want to push up and down, score a lot of points. I don't like that. I don't have a good feel about that.
I could see the over/under coming in at like 139, 138. You talking about that? Then I like it. I think we're looking at an over game. But to your point, you're looking at maybe a 150 type of thing. Now you're starting to really get tight in. Now my heart says Charlotte because, like we mentioned it, they've been playing lights out, man.
Yeah.
They've been playing lights out. The chemistry's there. The line will come out tomorrow, both the spread and the over/under. Keep those tips in mind.
All right. Got anything else?
No, that's it. I'm just making sure everybody knows how to, pad those pockets, baby.
Hey, look. We've already discussed the All-Star game. I'll just say throw it away because that what we saw last night.
Yeah.
And the dunk contest. Y'all give me. Hold on.
No, don't hit the sports book. Don't hit the sports books with that game.
Dunk contest, All-Star game. There you go, right there. That's all the time we have for the point after this for today. We'll see you Friday with Charlotte FC Talk. The regular season starts this week. We are Charlotte. The mighty black and blue.
There it is.
We are from the Carolina. See you on Friday, guys.